Let's go ahead and take a look here at who we think might have the hardest schedule this upcoming season.
Yeah, so when you're looking at the schedules, every fan thinks they have either an easy schedule or a hard schedule. There's very few people that are like, "Man, hey, this is just a nice schedule," right? A teacher like, "Wow, we're going to win all of our games," or "Man, the league did us like that." But looking at it, I think I singled out a team that has a pretty tough run, and it is the Buffalo Bills. They didn't really get too much better this offseason, and they've got a crazy stretch of games at the end of their season, starting off with Cincy away. Then they start off with Cincy away, I think week 10. Then they go from Cincy, they get Aaron Rodgers at home. Then they have to go to Philly. They get a bye week, and then they're playing in Kansas City. They get the Cowboys home. Then they have to go to Los Angeles to play Justin Herbert's Chargers, get a home matchup against Bill Belichick, and finish the season down in Miami where it's like 100 degrees. So that's a rough start. It's hard to build momentum for the playoffs when you've got your hardest games all at the end of your season. That's just rough for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that is tough, and that's kind of I would agree that that's a tough schedule, especially to have towards the end, right? They don't have anything spread out. You would love to have it kind of spread out where you have some easier games in between. So that's why I think with mine, I know this is kind of the consensus of the league as well. I think it's even literally like based on last year's
Oh, strength of
winning
schedule.
percentage, the strength
Yeah,
of schedule was I picked the Philadelphia Eagles.
yeah,
Um, and so for me, and it's the same thing. It's because of the stretch of their last some games. The start of their season is going to be pretty easy. I wouldn't be surprised if um, I wouldn't be surprised if. So are you clicking a pin or something?
my bad.
You're driving. Okay, I was like, I'm driving this. Okay. Anyway, um, so they start off with New England. That should be easy. Minnesota, I don't think that'll be very hard. Tampa Bay, easy. Washington, easy. Los Angeles Rams, easy. Then you get to the Jets. That depending on how the Jets are going to be at that point, I think the Jets will. My concern with the Jets, and we'll kind of get into it later, is I don't know what they're going to be like at the start of the season, right? And so this would be week like 6, and then they have Washington again. So they don't have a tough game really. I would say you could pencil in maybe the Jets, but they don't have a tough game until week 9 against Dallas, right? So the first 8 weeks, we'll give 7 because maybe the Jets will be there. I mean, maybe Miami, but that's going to be at home. So I like them there. So the start off to their season is very good. I would be surprised if they're not, at least 7-2 by that point
Yeah,
going into their bye week. And then after their bye week is when it gets freaking tough. They don't even get the luck of a bye week because the Chiefs are on the bye week at the same time, right? So it's not even, the Chiefs are going to be on extra rest. The Chiefs, we all know how good they are coming off of a bye. So the Phillies not only have to pay the Chiefs off of a bye, off the Chiefs bye, but they have to go into Arrowhead to do it. And it's a
yeah,
primetime game, which Arrowhead is going to be rocking. So definitely
crazy.
definitely going to be a tough game. But then they hit Buffalo, then they hit San Francisco, and then Dallas again, and then Seattle, and then maybe New York. Right? Not for sure what New York is going to be. I'm not too high on them, but at least Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas, Seattle. So 6 games back to back to back to back to back to back like that.
Yeah,
That's gonna be rough. And then they get to finish out with New York, Arizona, New York. I think those will be 3 easy games. So they'll at least get
yeah,
to finish out the season going into the playoffs well off. Might even be able to rest some players there towards the end. But that stretch right there of those from weeks 9 to 15 are going to be a brutal stretch there for the Eagles. Kind of similar to what you pointed out with the Bills, where it's just all the hardest teams on your schedule are going to be back to back to back. It's tough. You can look at it kind of like a blessing in disguise because it's going to get you ready for the playoffs, right? You're going to be weathered. These are playoff teams, right? There's teams that Philly is going to have to play in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl again, and then going up against 2 of the top AFC contenders in Kansas City and Buffalo, who they might face in the Super Bowl.
yeah.
So definitely, I think important and worth it, but definitely a tough stretch for the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about, the Eagles kind of earned this schedule, right? They made it to the Super Bowl. the Buffalo Bills, as good as record they had, they lost second round, and they've got this rough schedule. They were a playoff team. They had, I think they were the second seed. Probably should have been the third seed. Who knows with that Damar Hamlin situation, canceled a game there. But I just think both of these schedules, we talked about it and talk about it. Brutal end of season. That's when you need to get hot, and that's when you have your easier, scheduled teams. And neither one of these guys got that look.
Neither one did. Neither one did. So yeah, Eagles and Buffalo Bills. There are harder schedules. Let's go on the easiest schedule. Chase, give me your take here. Who's got the easiest schedule?
All right, the Atlanta Falcons have the easiest schedule this year. They play two quarterbacks that I think would be consensus top 10. Other than that, they get games like they play Bryce Young, so who we don't know what he's going to be yet, right? But they play him week 1, so they get rookie Bryce Young first game. Historically, that's not a great game for rookies. Then you have the unknown and Jordan Love. You play Jared Goff week 3. Then you have your first rough game against the Jaguars. Then you get CJ Stroud coming in, another rookie on a bad Texans team. Get Sam Howell, who I was fond of last year, but still on a really bad Washington team. Baker Mayfield twice a year. You get the Tennessee Titans and Minnesota Vikings, which I'm not very fond of either or. Get the Cardinals and the Saints twice a year. You do have to play the Jets, and that is week 12. So that's going to be a rough one, but you're coming off a bye playing them. So you could late buy, finish up your season with Indy, Chicago, and New Orleans. I honestly, this could be a low tier playoff team, win their division, get into the playoffs type of thing with this roster here. This is a very winnable roster. Not too many rough games, and especially with your rough games, the sad part is they're both away. But going to Jacksonville, not a big drive from Atlanta. New York is a little bit farther away, but you're staying in that time zone. You're not moving time zones like crazy. So,
well, they don't go to Jacksonville. They play that game in London. Remember?
Oh, that's true. That's true. So that is a little rough. That would be Jacksonville's first. So you both will have jet lag. So that kind of equals out that one. So, So you're not. I mean, and I was looking at time zones. They're not going crazy across the country anywhere besides London. I did forget that, but yeah, I think this is their best case scenario schedule wise.
I mean, yeah, they don't. Obviously the NFC South is the worst division in the NFC, right? So being able to play the NFC South, someone's got to win it. It's anybody's game, right?
Yes.
And then they also have to play the AFC South. The worst division in the AFC, or the AFC South in the AFC. So they're set up about as good as can be, right? They're obviously within their division, right? The NFC South, so that's built into their schedule. And the AFC South is there. And then they play the NFC North, which is not really the powerhouse, really that it used to be. That it
has been, yeah, exactly.
That it has been. So all those games will be maybe somewhat winnable. Like we'll see kind of what happens there towards the end. They play those two games early on with Green Bay and Detroit, so we'll see kind of what the Falcons are like. But yeah, it's definitely not a tough schedule at all, and especially that'll be especially good for a team that's going to be bad for the Falcons. They might be able to squeeze out a positive win season, maybe 9 wins. Get to 9 wins, 10 wins, maybe even. Just due to the fluff of schedules, just depending. I don't know if they did enough of on their defense to actually do it. But I understand. But we'll see if it's this. The schedule is built for it to happen, right? So crazier things have definitely happened. My easiest schedule I'm going to give to you is going to be a top AFC contender, and it's going to be actually the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think. One, due to the nature of their division, right? So their division is not very good. So I think they can easily win their division. I don't think any team is going to be competing with them. And then you look at the fact that they play 3 top tier quarterbacks. They play Mahomes, they play Josh Allen, and they play Joe Burrows. Those would be the three biggest games. But when they play him spread out. Kansas City in
Yeah.
week 2 at home. Week 5 against Buffalo. That's in London, right? But that's going to be their second game. So they're already going to be there. So they'll have the extra rest compared to Buffalo.
Yes.
So as much as it kind of sucks, it's still an advantage, right? That they'll have being out there. And then they play Cincinnati at home in week 13, right? So the toughest games against the toughest quarterbacks, minus Buffalo, they're getting at home. You can even throw San Francisco in there as well. Also a home game. So San Francisco has to come all the way across the country. They don't have to go. They can stay home. So the toughest matchups are in favor of them because they're going to be at home. You can throw the Baltimore Ravens in there. That's going to be a week 15 game. That's home. So they just lucked out with all these crazy games at home. It's almost unbelievable that all of their hardest games, like if you took a look at their schedule, said these are the hardest games, obviously besides Buffalo, all at home, and it's all spread out. They're not going to have to go through this huge gauntlet towards the end of the season, like we said about the Eagles, like we said about the Bills, like the Chiefs will have to. They're able to sit at home literally and have everybody come to them and to do that. They'll be well rested in between because they'll have the easier matchups in between. And so I just think I think this schedule highly favors the Jackson Jaguars to be a top seed team in the AFC.
Yeah, just like we were talking about with the Falcons, they play the NFC South, so they get that easier matchup there. They get 6 divisional games that I'm not really high on any of them. I think a couple of teams in there are going to be fun to watch, like the Texans and Colts will be fun to watch, but not compete. And they also, they like you said, they play, and then 49ers come to town. Jacksonville got a bye week right before that, so they get an extra week to prepare Trevor Lawrence for this stifling defense in the 49ers. That's the hardest defense they'll play all season, and they get a bye week to prepare for it. Like, they are primed to make a run, and I am ready for it.
Yeah. The only downside, right, to their schedule is when they come back from London, which is wild to me. They don't have a bye when they come back from London. So they play in London Sunday, October 8th, and then they have to play, at least it's a home game, right? So they don't have to travel again, and they play at home. I'm going to murder you if you keep clicking that pencil. I will come through this computer and strangle you with bare hand.
My bad.
But they get that at home, so it sucks. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, just due to that, if they drop that game to Indy. But we'll see what happens. That's the only negative part of their schedule, I think, is the fact that they don't have that bye when they're coming back from London. But other than that, I think it's, facing the teams they have to face, right? You can't control that. They're going to have to play tough competition.
Exactly.
But how it fell to them schedule-wise it cannot get any better for the Jags.
I agree. That's a very favorable schedule in Jacksonville's way.
All right, well, there you have it. There's the easiest schedule breakdown. So let us know in the comments who you think has the hardest schedule and why, and then who has the easiest schedule and why.